Hello, everyone. It's Mike from Downtown Comics, and I'm here as always with James Rossman. James, how are we doing today?
It's been a couple weeks, Mike.
It
That's
has,
been good.
yes. Life has kept us apart, but we're back together here to talk about comics releasing this week. We're in April 16th territory, 2025, so we've got some great comics to talk over. So let's get right to it. DowntownComics.com is the place you can go to check out every comic that comes out every week. And we are only a couple weeks away from Free Comic Book Day. Oh, and also, I know you like this. It's Superman Day today.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
it is
so
Superman Day
National
today.
Superman
So
Day.
yeah, so celebrate Superman. And liking, sharing, and subscribing is also very important to us. So please do that. All right, let's get going. So you're gonna go first.
Yes.
All right, what do we got on tap?
So first off is Superior Avengers #1.
All right.
I really didn't know, like, when we first found out, like, no, this was coming out. I wasn't sure exactly like what to think about it. I wasn't sure if there was if it was going to be like, I think, what did I write down? I think it was. Oh.
I was thinking it was just a play on Dark Avengers.
Yeah, that's
so when
that's
Osborn,
exactly, yeah,
kind of got in charge of the government superhero thing. Yeah, that would have been my guess.
Or I think Thunderbolts did a thing too, didn't they? Where it was like the villains like dressed up as the heroes.
Right. Well, I guess we can get into that in the story.
Mm-hmm.
There's maybe a little bit of Thunderbolts going on. It
right.
seems like possibly, but yeah, those two concepts, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Those
yeah. So first few pages of this is Doom's Superior Avengers fighting Annihilus. So we get kind of a couple action packed couple first pages there in Washington D.C. and what was the Annihilation Wave?
They call it the Annihilation Wave. It's basically his bugs or whatever those things are.
Right,
they come from the negative zone and rush into our galaxy and try to take over stuff. So that was basically the big MacGuffin or the big bad guys of the Annihilation event back in like 2006, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
So that's when we got our OG movie Guardians of the Galaxy team. That's when they were created during that event back then. So
okay.
So
nice.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then obviously in this, it says, shows right on the cover there's, these Superior Avengers are definitely don't look like, the traditional.
No, and actually it's very odd. They don't give you a ton of backstory on some of them. So yeah, I'm very curious to who these people actually are. But the twist, I think, is that from Dark Avengers, it was basically villains given a hero, replacing a hero moniker. So like Venom was the Spider-Man and Daken was the Wolverine. But in this one, if I'm correct, they're not from our dimension. Right. So these are actually heroes from other multiverses.
I want to say they
said,
or
I guess Avengers of some sort.
I want to say they said a century into the future, or maybe that's not enough. I know they gave some sort of timeline in there, like very, very brief, but yeah, they're definitely far in the future from where we are now.
Oh, you mean in terms of the book itself?
Yes. Well, the Superior Avengers
is the book story in the now of the Marvel Universe, or you're saying the book story is set in a future?
No, I think the book itself is like in the now.
Okay. But
the Superior Avengers, I think, if I remember correctly.
Oh, you're right. They're from dimensions where Doom wins.
Yeah,
where Doom's reign is awesome or something.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is kind of a wacky brain turner.
It is. And, in this too, I mean, I guess you can't really say a ton about this, but they may or may not have like an ulterior motive.
Yes.
For, I mean, they're helping out Doom, but they might have their own little initiative on the side as well.
Yeah, and that's where you get into the kind of the Thunderbolts kind of play, maybe. So yeah, there's a lot going on in this book, and the characters are, like I said, I was having trouble. Like, okay, so this is there's an onslaught, but it's obviously not our onslaught. It's from some multiversal future.
Yeah, and too, in this we get some time with Doom's adopted son,
right?
Which I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Christoph.
Yeah. So he's trying to work on this time platform essentially to basically bring these people, right? Like, or these these other characters back to their time so that way everyone's like, oh yeah, Doom's amazing,
Yeah, I think the idea was that Kristoff was trying to impress his dad by finding futures where Doom's reign was awesome, and then bringing the heroes from that. So his whole thing was finding those dimensions. He was combing the multiverse for specific dimensions or something. So
yeah, and this too, I won't give too much away about this, but Doom kind of goes in. He's like, oh, just show me. I don't care if it's not ready. And it kind of turns for the worse a little bit for like a few seconds, like,
right.
And then Doom takes over. But yeah, that was interesting. So he's Doom's basically kind of like you're my son, figure this out,
right?
Essentially. So
yeah.
And then you have these superior Avengers, basically just like all hail Doom and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what. I don't know, this whole event though so far, even with the tie-ins, I feel like is one of the best Marvel events that I've read for a while.
Yeah,
so, like,
I think obviously having Doom in anything usually is pretty good, but no, I think they're doing a lot of good setting up to what this means for the Marvel universe. And some stuff is affected right away, some stuff it's slower to come around. I mean, if you're reading the Iron Man book, that's just starting to tie in, but yet it's not quite the same as what's going on in Avengers. So there's different aspects all over the place, and so it is interesting. This will be an interesting book, because I really, by the time we get to the end, you don't really know still what's going on, because they bring back something else from the past. I don't know. Did you know that?
I didn't at first.
Okay, so that's from the Civil War.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that not to spoil it, but it was something that was created by Reed Richards for the Civil War event. So back in that same time, kind of 2006-ish or whatever. So,
okay, yeah.
So that's why, I don't know why they want it, but that's what that's from.
So, okay, yeah. Yeah, and I feel like these, all the tie-ins for the One World Under Doom has been, pretty good. And I feel like that's, in itself, speaks highly of Marvel if you're able to not only bring this all together and it be a cohesive, good story, but also have your one-offs where it's like, okay, well, this itself was good, even if you weren't going to read, the whole One World Under Doom. So,
yeah, and again, if you read this first issue and had read nothing else, you would be super confused, but don't worry, because you're super confused even if you had read everything.
Like we just
there's a lot going on as we're trying to talk through it, right? So be patient with it. But that's kind of now you want to read the second one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, awesome. All right, well, my first one is Batman Superman World's Finest, long title. It's number 38, came out this week. Now, I know you read it. This is one of my favorite titles. Number one, Mark Waid writes it, and he's just the perfect writer for just core Superman, Batman stuff. And usually it's more multiversal, where it's maybe different versions of Batman and Superman and different multiverses having adventures or whatever. But now we're firmly kind of back in the real core DC universe, because this is part one of a crossover with Just League Unlimited. So we're getting ready to do a Just League Unlimited World's Finest crossover. So this is part one of that. So if you do read Just League Unlimited, I know that my store in particular has to order more copies of World's Finest, because it sells a little bit less. And I wasn't, didn't quite get enough. So I'm going to try and get more, and hopefully they'll reprint it if it's sold out.
Yeah.
But so it's just a classic adventure, Batman, Superman. They are doing a Top Gun Maverick test. Green Lantern is flying a top secret jet for the Pentagon that Bruce Wayne financed, and Clark Kent, of course, is covering the test flight or whatever, and Hal Jordan is flying the plane. So very Top Gun Maverick-y, and there was a really funny line in it where Clark's just like, he's talking to Bruce Wayne. He's like, well, aren't you, Hal's a little bit of a hothead jockey. Are you okay with giving him this $1 billion plane to fly around? And and Bruce Wayne's like, well, I mean, if something goes wrong, he can always do his Green Lantern thing and save the plane. And then Clark was like, he doesn't use the ring when he flies.
Exactly.
And Bruce was like, what? He's like, yeah, he feels like it gives him a cheat or something like an edge. And Bruce is like, oh my God. So things do go bad. And we find out, though, that it does because they accidentally got close to Gorilla Island or whatever they call it. Gorilla Grodd's, the island where the super intelligent gorillas live. And so the plane enters their airspace because they didn't realize because it's invisible. And he's shot down and captured. So Hal Jordan's captured. So the Flash, Superman and Batman, they go to rescue him. And, it's a Gorilla Grodd thing. They have to fight Gorilla Grodd, figure out what's going on. There's some cameos by another villain you may recognize from the Superman books. But basically, once they take care of that, though, they find out that Grodd had bigger plans going on. And so that leads into what's going to happen in Justice League Unlimited. So it does continue. But you could read this as a one-off.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a good, solid, them fighting as Super Ape.
Yeah, Batman, Superman, the World's Finest is actually my longest-running series that I have, personally. So, because we're, like we said, we're in issue 38. And I think, honestly, it's stayed one of my top 5 favorite running series for ever since it started. Really.
I mean it's just good solid comic booky fun if you like those characters, and you like them being together. Like I said, Mark Waid is just that's his bread and butter. He's been doing this for literally almost the entire time I've been reading comics. I mean,
I don't think there's any end in sight for the World's Finest either.
I mean, I thought when he took over Justice League Unlimited, he may stop it, but and maybe that'll still happen or something. But like I said, a lot of the times the storylines go into like different versions of them, so there's infinite amount of stories. So even if he doesn't want to tell one about the current versions in the core DC universe, you can tell one from somewhere else. He likes doing that. So it could go on forever. So sells okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All
right. So next up for me is Challengers of the Unknown number 5. It's a little bittersweet because it's the last issue. So
it's just 5 issues.
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why I thought it was 6. But yeah, this is definitely one of the because I think even Question on the Unknown ran a little bit longer than that. I think she was
question 6 or
6.
7.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in this issue, we finally get the answers of the like what's going on with the Challengers and like the Omega energy and we get. I should preface it like we get answers from a lot of questions, especially why Mr. Terrific was kind of like so standoffish like with the Challengers. We see in this issue where, they, there's a certain energy that's, kind of gotten a hold of the Challengers and, they're fighting with the Justice League and, let's see, what else did I put on here? Yeah. So, if you've been familiar with the overall story of Darkseid, how Darkseid's dead and, kind of wondering like, oh, who's going to fill that vacuum and who's going to, that's kind of like with the new gods, but that's kind of played in a little bit with the Challengers.
Okay.
But also, if you've read the Superman special, there's a few teases in the last issue of Challengers where it's spoken a little bit more about in the Superman special. That's why I asked you earlier. I was like, "Do you guys have any more?" I was like, "I need to read this."
Okay.
So, overall, there's not a whole lot I want to say about this just because there's a lot that goes on and a lot of questions that are answered that have been throughout the first 4 issues. So, but I mean, honestly, DC's kind of like Marvel right now where, DC's doing this phenomenal job about making things fit together while also giving us these individual, DC's not, essentially, I guess they are kind of tie-ins to the overall all-in.
Yeah,
stuff.
It seems like it tangentially. Again, each series touches upon a certain aspect of it, I guess. So it'll be interesting to see when it all comes together. But you're right. I mean, these things are so like the Challenge of Unknown. I mean, it's not a type of title that you would say like, oh, we're going to make an ongoing series for this. But yeah, giving it a tight 5-6 issue arc, and then if they want to do another adventure, they can come back and do that. That's great.
And I think even though this is the last issue, there's some things in here that happens, especially towards the end, where we're like, yeah, we're going to see the Challengers, like,
sure,
in the very near future. I just think though too, like with all these, all these smaller series, they're coming to an end, but I think that there's going to be, and I'm just kind of speculating, but like I feel like there's going to be something big that comes. I don't know whether at the end of this year, next year, something like that, where everything's just going to come together.
Yeah, that is the big question, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So the whole series pretty good, pretty fun.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Awesome. All right, my next one is Redcoat. I think we're on number 11 this week, and the reason I wanted to highlight this issue is if you have been following the overall universe that's in, like so Geiger and Redcoat, they're both in this universe. In the back of all the comics, there's like a timeline of this supposed world, and it says here's where the Redcoat starts, and here's where Geiger starts, and all. But there's this character right here is where it says the Northerner appears. Okay, it's called the Northerner. So in this one, we finally get the Northerner. All right, so he's seems to be a major character within this timeline story. So, and I have to admit I was surprised because I didn't know. I mean, his look is of a African American Union soldier from the Civil War. All right, so I was like, oh, okay, well, he's gonna. Redcoat's gonna get to the 1860s and meet this guy, and then maybe he's another immortal. It's possible or something like that. I mean, I didn't know, but that's what so no, that's not what's going on. I'm a little bit more confused than ever, but not to give it away, but this dude is more like he's a John Connor. He's a time traveler.
Wow. Okay.
We don't know from where or when, but yeah, he shows up and then all of a sudden he brandishes 2 like Beretta pistols and blows someone away, and obviously it is in the 1840s or 50s or something like that. So it's Civil War time, but he's got modern pistols.
Wow.
So other than that, again, there's an adventure and there's more to come. I don't know within the next issue. It may be. Later on, this guy will reappear again because I think he disappears at the end of the book or whatever. So, yeah, we don't know what he's doing. We don't know why he's doing it. He seems to want to make sure that our character, the Redcoat, is Simon Pure is his name, is still is still on the right path, I guess. So, not sure, but like I said, that's all we know. But it was pretty cool. So we don't know much more than that, or why his get-up is actually Civil War attire. Was he from the Civil War and then traveled to the future and then traveled? I don't know. Yeah. So
with that being like in the Geiger universe, was there crossovers at all?
No, there's been no crossover. It's just like I said, the Redcoat series started when he became immortal, and that was in the 1700s with the Revolutionary War, and then he's been slowly traveling forward in time, and right now his story is right up until right into the Civil War era. So he's in the 1840s or 50s or something like that. Geiger is set. Let's see. Supposedly, the war that blew everything up was 10 years from whatever the now is, right?
Yeah.
And then Geiger is 25 years after that.
Okay.
So I guess if the now was 2020, let's say, then the war happened in 2025, and then he's in like 2040. But they never really date it where Geiger is. They just say it's 25 years after the war blew everything up. So no, there's been no. Yeah, I don't know that other than the timeline, they're on the same timeline. If there's going to be some sort of crossover or not.
That's what I was wondering.
So I mean, there's other characters that they mentioned or other things that happen on this timeline that haven't been seen yet. So there's obviously plans in place, but how it may interact at the end, I don't know.
That'll be really interesting. I'm excited because I think Redcoat's the only one that I'm not reading currently, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but
Yeah.
I mean, the whole.
And the great thing about it is they can be read separately. Like, you could read Geiger, not Redcoat, or vice versa, and because they're different stories, and you're not missing anything. But again, you see that timeline on the back of each cover, so you know that they're in the same universe.
Yeah.
So you're intrigued enough, like, hey, I want to check this out. So so it's a good book.
Sweet. All right.
Yeah.
All right, so last up is a fun one. Godzilla versus Hulk.
Yeah, we're on our second one. So my first thought is, did you read Godzilla versus Fantastic Four?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Did we talk about that?
No, we didn't.
Okay, maybe we because we haven't been around. So right. Okay, so when I read that, I was like, oh, okay, this seems like they're doing it in a style of like a throwback to the 70s.
Yeah.
Because that's when Godzilla was under the Marvel license. And I thought these were just going to be a bunch of one-shots where they just have other people fight Godzilla.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. But come to find out that this is actually an ongoing story. Yeah. So that was my first kind of realization there when I started reading it. I'm like, oh, okay, these are actually following one another.
Yeah, which is actually really cool. I mean, this title, you get exactly kind of like what you expect from it.
Oh, yeah.
Essentially. So, even looking at the front cover, you're like, oh, okay, I can kind of get the gist of it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is, about, the Hulk fighting, freaking Godzilla. There's Mecha Godzillas in here. There's a couple, Mothra makes an appearance.
Yeah. The starts with an H, but the bad guy of it is and I'm apology to Godzilla fans. I know the character have the HEP Evadora something to that effect. Don't hurt me, Godzilla fans, that I'm not pronouncing this right or no. I know just enough to be dangerous. But so a lot of just big giant monsters, and it's got the Hulk fighting big giant monsters.
Yeah, and this too. I mean, we get Dr. Demonicus, and he's more or less kind of really played with. Oh my gosh, now I'm spacing the General
Ross.
Yeah,
Thunderbolt Ross. Yeah.
Yeah, so he kind of was like using him and his, and everything that he had like with the military to kind of like create his own, monster, and you kind of. But I thought there was, because he was taking all of these DNAs from these other big, from these other monsters and making this. But I thought was really interesting when he released that. Hulk went up to Godzilla, basically kind of like resuscitating him. Essentially.
Yeah, right.
And then he was like, Hulk blood will save Godzilla or something like that. And then you see what happens when he opens his eyes, and you're like, so not only is Godzilla super dangerous and strong, but infused with, the Hulk's blood with gamma radiation and stuff like that, that's an unstoppable, like, not even.
Yeah, I mean, the book is just pure fun, and like I said, being set in the 70s, which also makes me wonder, is the reason this can exist because they're specifically setting it in the time frame that the original Marvel comic was in? Was that part of the contract that, like, hey, you can do a Godzilla crossover, but you can't do anything modern now because IDW owns that license, but you can do a story set within the Godzilla comic that came out in the late 70s.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But it actually works, because I mean, Hulk is so much fun in this era because, number one, Thunderbolt Ross is chewing scenery and being all like Nick Fury and stuff, and you got Gamma Base, and Hulk kind of does that he talks but not intelligently, so it's that and it's a fun time in Hulk world and stuff, and this all works, and so that makes me excited for what they may show later on and stuff like that. So
because what's the next one we're getting?
I think it's Spider-Man.
Okay.
I think it's Spider-Man, then X-Men, then Thor. I mean, there's three more. It's those three. I just don't know what order, but I think it's Spider-Man, Spider-Man, X-Men, Thor. So but it seems like each one ends and then it gets to the next one. So you don't have to read them all. They're all standalones, but I highly recommend just going and getting the Fantastic Four, and then
And I think though too, like in this issue, I was happy that towards the end the Hulk was actually helping Godzilla, because there at the beginning when Banner was kind of on Ross's side, or
Dr. Demonicus.
Yeah, Dr. Demonicus. Yeah. I was like, oh man, I was like, what's going on? And they said it had been years since because they thought that the Hulk died, essentially, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, because he'd been working at Gamma Base, and then like the Hulk was coming out in secret and stuff. So I didn't read the Hulk during that time a lot. So,
okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, because they made a reference of like, you're like, oh well, who is it that we buried?
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay, that might be something from.
Yeah, that's definitely from that era.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Nice. Well, overall, yeah, super fun. Super fun. Yeah.
Yeah, but and fine for all ages.
Yeah,
You want to give your kids a Hulk comic that they'll enjoy, then this is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. I think that about wraps us up for this one.
All right. Cool. Well, good to be back. Let's just hope that things get crazy in the next month. But every week we will sit down and do one of these videos. So thank you for watching. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Happy reading.